So it was quite easy to find where these buffalo were, thanks to Rex, who helpfully guided me into the sighting. And we've come across them. Now, obviously, I didn't see the kill. I wasn't in the sighting yesterday when Jamie found the lions on the kill. So I can't tell you too much, but by the looks of it, it looked like a very young buffalo, and there's not really anything left anymore. I can only see 3 adult lionesses here, and then I can see 6 cubs. So we're just missing 2 females and 2 of the cubs. And I couldn't tell you who's who because it looks like they've all grown up so much. They're almost all the same size now. I don't think the teddies are quite looking like teddies anymore, so I can't wait to see them. I think this could even be one of them. Hello, little one. Now you can see those fat bellies. They've had a good feed, and they're all playing around with each other, which is fantastic. We've got here just at the right moment. Look at them. They've all got bounces of energy. There we go. Ooh, down, taken down. And we know how important this behavior is, as cute and sweet and as funny as it is. This is what they're going to be doing one day, is racing around and jumping onto the backs of buffalo, hopefully, like their mothers do so well. But for now, they just got to practice and play with each other. And you'll see them now that they're all huddled around the carcass, how they sort of back off a distance and then they race over and jump on it as if they were pretending to take down that buffalo. So it's basically just a little snack for them. Yes, it would be nice if you went inside into that little cavity, but they're very clean. Normally after we see the Nkuhumas, especially the little ones, after they've devoured a buffalo, they usually match this color of the soil. They're normally quite black with all the blood and the feces. There you go, one's going back to mom, and the others have sort of said, no, we don't need our parents anymore. We're going to fight and pull on this carcass. Now, their teeth aren't quite strong enough to do sort of any damage just yet. You'll see them chewing on the skin. And I don't think the little bristles on their tongues are as hard as what they should be. So I'm sure they waited for mom to open up that carcass before they could actually eat anything. Normally when they do kill something, you'll see them chewing on an ear or chewing on a bit of hide. But I don't think that carnassial share works too well either just yet. And these are all things that they're going to have to just wait until they're a little bit older to have a better sort of grip of. But they'll keep trying and practicing is good. And I hope you can hear all the wonderful noises. Oh, okay, well, we're going to sit here with the lions for a little bit because they're being fantastic. And while we do that, let's go back and just see how Karula and her 2 little ones are doing. So, the lions are now on the move. Sorry, I've got a bit of a squeak. I'm just trying to roll forward so you can have a look here. It seems like another lioness has actually joined. There was quite a bit of commotion, and we saw this. We actually heard the cubs sort of talking, sort of row, row. And then we all looked up and we looked around, and then just about 40 or 50 meters away from the rest of the pride, another lioness. And of course, all the cubs are now racing towards where the females have got up to. So I'm quite excited to see where she takes us. So we're still missing 1 lioness though, and of course the Birmingham that normally tails with them. Now you see they've disappeared. Now this female seems to be going back, but the other girl has come through as well. I don't think they're going to be too worried about their carcass. Sorry, I'm just listening. Listen. Can you all hear that? I'm going to go forward. Okay, fantastic. What I'm going to do is I think whoever's trying to talk down below us, when I say talk, I'm talking about the lion. Someone sounds like he's doing a very half-hearted roar. Listen, turn that volume right up. Ooh, everyone's very excited. I think maybe they've been separated for a few days, and this is perhaps why they're so excited. Oh, wow, look at them. Have you ever... No, that's not a run that's running away. This little cub is jumping for joy. Everyone's coming. Even the female lionesses are walking at quite a quick pace. They're all contact calling. They're all talking to each other now, trying to regroup. We know how social the cats are. Isn't this just incredible? Here comes the other lioness. Off she goes. Yeah, moving at a fairly quick pace. Still all talking to each other. Here's one of the mothers. Right, I think what we're going to do now is we're also going to get going. I want to try and get ahead of them. Right. And we just need to make our way around and through all this thick vegetation. But we can do it. Isn't this amazing? Now, I know a few of you were wondering about my buffalo encounter yesterday. That was interesting. And I was telling you about my encounter, but we'll just try and keep up with the Nkuhumas for a little bit and see where they're heading to and try and get a good spot. And then I will tell you about my story. I'm just going to go a little bit further forward. You can see them here. The others are quite far ahead of us, so we need to try and keep up with them. We'll have a little look. Now they are moving into some very, very thick vegetation. It's quite exciting. They're all chatting away quite nicely, so we'll quickly listen. See if we can get one more sort of sound of them calling. It's really beautiful. You see the female voices aren't as deep as the males. It's quite actually easy to tell the difference between the sounds of the males and females, especially with a roar or these contact calling. Females sort of much high-pitched voices compared to the boys. Here we go, now she's staring back. Perhaps we've left one female behind, and that's why she keeps turning back and looking over her shoulder. She looks very concerned, sort of quite worried. They were saying, come with us, we're leaving. There we go. And I can't tell you, even something small, like that contact call, still makes the bottom of the vehicle rumble. I can feel almost that vibration through my feet. It's just amazing how powerful those resonating chambers are in the back of their throats. You see, I think, a little greeting ceremony here. Here we go. Very typical to rub heads like that. Isn't this lovely? Hello, guys. So I'm confused as to what's going on because all the cubs are coming back this way now. And the other, I'm going to just duck. There we go. Look at that. All the little tanned creatures coming amongst all the triples. That was not nice. That was a surprise attack. Well planned. Like I said, we're still hearing the contact calling coming from where the cubs have just come from. I'm going to sit quietly, though, for the next few moments, just so you can enjoy. Sorry, everyone. I'm hearing Kirsty this morning. How exciting is this? Cubs seem to have settled down a little bit now. I think that sugar rush is wearing off. You see this all the time with young children, how one moment they're bouncing from wall to wall to wall, and then all of a sudden they're exhausted and they need a quick nap. But then they'll be back again. And there's a lot of bouncing back and forward, calling sort of facing south and then calling and facing north. So that other lioness has gone off now. And it looked like one of the young lionesses. I couldn't see any suckle marks, so perhaps it was the youngest lioness of the pride that I got a quick glimpse of, that the cubs went racing after. I think that the cubs if they had to choose, that is their favorite aunt, the young one, the young lioness. She loves to play with them. Good little one testing its voice. Yes. You're getting better. It's always quite funny to listen to them try and join in when the adults do roar or contact call. I can't help but giggle with all the sounds that are going on. Remember, you are watching a live, so absolutely live at the moment. You can't get any better than this. Look at them, all trying their absolute best to get the loudest sound. It's going to take these little ones a few more months, though, before they really develop their voices. Now, we are live, and I'd love to hear from you this morning, so if you have any questions, you're welcome to either hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can send us an email at questions@WildEarth.tv. Look at this one getting ready to crouch. There we go, and a quick sprint. No, not really a proper attack, though. I'm just... I'll just put you in the sleeper hold over this log. Now, when I arrived, I only spotted 3 females, just in case you've just joined in. I just want to very quickly recap. So I spotted 3 lionesses, and then I only saw 6 cubs. Now, we're missing 2 of the female lionesses, of course. Remember, the Nkuhumas are 5 adult lionesses and then 8 cubs. So I think one of the mothers is definitely missing, as well as with 2 cubs. I could only count 6, but maybe let's try and have another count when they do get back together again. Perhaps now another female has joined and has dropped the other 2 off, but Jeandre and I were pretty certain we only counted 6 when we first arrived. But we'll have another little count. It's so exciting, there's so much going on. Chatting, sort of back and forth, the cubs running one way. You can see now, there's a little cub running just in front of the vehicle. And they're very comfortable with us. It's actually quite entertaining watching these little ones now. As soon as somebody starts their vehicle, the 2 oldest cubs, they think they're big and brave, and they sort of walk over to the vehicles to say, hey, what are you doing here in my home? But then they back off again. Obviously, they're quite brave now. But they will learn to relax around us and learn that we're not a bother, and that we're no point wasting our energy because you're not going to get a reaction from us. So I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 cubs at the moment. It's not every day that we get to hear the lions vocalizing like this. I know you'd all probably prefer a big male lion to roar, but we've got these females here. You were just giving us a little taste. You know, this lioness is looking back north. There's another lioness to the left of her, and she's doing the complete opposite. She's facing the other way. They're going to greet again. And while I do this, I'm going to just sit very quietly. We've gone very quiet now. Of course, when I say I'm going to sit quietly, they all stop. But as soon as there's a bit of commotion again, I'll definitely just go very quiet. So don't worry. I do want you to just enjoy this. As we're sitting here as well, I'm also trying to figure out best way to get around this thicket, because it's quite dense in here. I think I'm going to have to actually go around. It seems like both lionesses have given up now in trying to call who is ever left behind. Maybe they were a little bit worried about leaving the kill. Maybe they were sort of communicating between each other, sort of saying, should we leave it? There wasn't really anything left, so I don't think there's any loss there. And we know what killing machines the Nkuhumas are, and there are lots and lots of buffalo around at the moment. There is definitely no shortage. Here we go, I'm going to use the luxury facility, so I think it will only be a moment, I'm sure by this evening, where the Nkuhumas will have another juicy steak between their paws. And off she goes. Right, now we're going to have to reposition. So I'm going to have to go through some treacherous bush now, so while I do this, let's go back to see how Steph's doing. We are now back at the carcass, and I don't want to do too much talking because there's some great sounds coming. So like I said, turn the volume up and have a little listen. Now there isn't very much food left on the carcass, so the lioness that stayed behind, perhaps to guard the carcass from all the vultures that are lurking in the trees waiting for them to move off. When we started coming back with the other two lionesses and all the cubs, there was a big argument between this lioness that we're looking at now and the one on the other side. They had a bit of a brawl and they slapped each other a few times. And you can still hear a lot of the growling is coming from that lioness at the back. So perhaps she feels as though she's entitled to the last remains. You know, she was the one that stayed behind while everyone raced off. And I'm not sure where the fourth lioness disappeared to. They sort of lost visual of her, or lost sight of her, sorry, and then came back. Now, Amber Eyes is not here, unfortunately, and I know Green Eyes was wondering. I haven't seen her yet. So I'm not sure where all the rest of the cubs are, because I can still only count 6 cubs. But we'll have another look. Maybe now that they're finally all together, we'll be able to have a decent look. Maybe Amber Eyes is here. Maybe she's the one that's doing all the growling at the back. I haven't really been able to see, as you can see. All the other lions are blocking my view. But we will hang tight, and then we can always have another look. Let's see. I'm going to sit quietly again. Isn't that funny? Oh, whenever you say you're going to sit quietly, it reminds me when I was at school, when during an exam, your stomach would start to rattle. Oh, quickly, go to James, let's see what he's got. These wonderful lions, and they've been providing so much entertainment this morning. I did get a little bit concerned at one point because they all looked like they were going to go back to sleep. And I do wish Karula and her cubs well, and I'm sure they'll be manage to fend off those baboons. Well, they've managed to find a nice chunk of flesh. We've got a few more coming to join, and something that Chandra and I were talking about is that the teddy bear cubs are not quite teddy bears anymore. I can't believe that in 10 days they have almost doubled in size. It's quite fantastic. And I did a recount because finally the cubs all settled down and came back together, and there are now 8 cubs here. So I think when we had that bit of commotion earlier, with the other lioness joining very briefly. I think she may have dropped the cubs off because there were definitely only 6 cubs when we first started and when we first arrived here this morning. So that's good. That's good to know. There's one of the little teddy bears. Hello, little one. Now, you're probably looking at your screen, and I'm sure you are wondering, and I know Brent has spoken about it, but you can see this little one does have a little bit of mange, and it's doing fine. I don't think there's anything to worry about just yet. A little bit itchy, but I'm sure Mom is taking good care of this little one, grooming it, and perhaps it'll survive. I think they'll do well. The other cubs seem to be in fantastic nick. And this one doesn't seem to look too bad at all. Just a few patches here and there, especially on the ears. But that could also be the flies biting their ears, because I've seen the other cubs look like they've got a few nibbles from the flies, and they can be quite pests. But remember that mange is a natural thing, and it's something that does occur, and it's important to control populations. That's why we have all these diseases and things around. But we'll keep our fingers crossed. But I have faith in the Nkuhumas. I think they're going to do just fine. Remember, you've always got to have a positive mindset. Like with Karula, I think she's going to fend off those baboons. I don't think she's going to let any one of them touch her little cubs. She's an incredible mother. We've seen it, or she's proven it year after year. You can see this one just having a little scratch, licking in between the padding of the paws. There we go. Hello. Now, it'll be quite interesting to see when we get the entire pride back together, because they've been separated for a few days today. And Bill, you were wondering, when you get a pride of lions, in that pride, is there any lioness that's considered the queen? Now, not from what I've seen. However, when I was down in the southern Sabi Sand with a southern pride, also 5 lionesses, and now I believe they've got 8 cubs too, there was an old lady in that pride, and her name was Mandlev. And she must have been about 15 years old. I mean, she was a really old lion, but she looked beautiful. The only thing that gave her age away was when she did a big yawn and she exposed her canines, and you could see they were worn down slightly. Now, I used to see a little bit more dominance from her. So when they would go out and hunt, she was often the first one up and eager and ready to go and getting the rally riled up. But I think the role between the lions is quite spread out. That'll be something to note. It's definitely not too much of, not as a definite matriarchal cycle like you see with the elephants. Just going to keep quiet. There's a bit of growling going on. Oh no, stop. Typical. Whenever I say something, they stop doing this. Don't worry, I haven't forgot about my buffalo story either. I will definitely tell you, but it's just so exciting at the moment. Maybe in a few minutes, while you are watching the lions, I shall tell you. You should see, I can't believe some of these cubs are still suckling. It's so funny. I'm sure the mothers, though, are starting to produce less and less milk every day, because the cubs are getting quite old now. Even the teddy bears must be almost, I've been here a month, so they must be all between 4 and 5 months now, aging quickly. That's something that I've noticed. Unfortunately, what we do as guides is we tend to forget that the animals age too. Now we're listening to all these little ones growl and make all strange sounds. Robin wants to know, when do the lions or the youngsters get their adult voices? I think it's going to take them quite a few months before they eventually get the proper sound. We heard it this morning of them all attempting to roar and contact call and copy the adults. So for the males, I think they're only going to get their proper, or they'll have a good sounding voice at about 2 years old. But I think that deepness of their voice is really only going to come in a few years after that. It'll just keep improving. And of course, as for the females, their voices aren't as deep as the boys. So I think around anywhere from about, let's say, 1.5 to 2 years, they should be sounding very much like adults. But for now, we get to enjoy the strange dinosaur sounds that come from their voices. It reminds me of the Jurassic Park movies when they make all the bizarre noises. Well, this female, she's found a good chunk of flesh. There really isn't anything left on this buffalo now. She's eaten it. She's reached the skin. They're going to have to keep turning it upside down and around and perhaps start eating along the legs. There's a few little chunks of flesh. You can see her sticking her head right in though. There we go. You see her pull and tug. And of course the little ones keep trying to steal her spot. You can see they're trying to creep in to try and get some good little bits as well. Having a good chuckle in the front. It sort of reminds me of these videos that everybody puts up on all the different social media where it's mom or dad and their kids follow them around and they can't even do anything without their little ones at their feet. And it just proves you it's not just with humans, it's with the animals too. And kids are everywhere you go. You can't get rid of them, which is not a bad thing, of course. But I'm sure it would be nice to have some peace and quiet and be able to eat dinner, breakfast or lunch on your own. See how she's using her paw now? She rips away at the flesh. Oh, wow. Some gruesome sounds going on. Hope you can hear all that sniffing and snorting and tearing as she rips the flesh off of the carcass. Isn't this lovely? All the cubs seem to be spread out there. It's like they don't need to rely on mom so much anymore. They're getting braver and braver as the days go by. Oh my goodness, my stomach's grumbling. I hope you can't hear that. This is so lovely. Now it's quite overcast today. It's really beautiful out here, nice and cool. I think we'll hang around with the Nkuhumas just for a little bit longer. And while we wait, let's go back to James. And I think Karula has finally arrived at the impala carcass. Ah, James, you're so funny. I would have loved to have seen what actually happened from sort of James's view. And yes, I did possibly use quite a bit of foul language yesterday. So let me quickly tell you about the buffalo story. We're going to end up telling this story 100 times, right? So, as you know, I'm the fossicker in chief. I do a lot of collecting of insects and a variety of different things for James. I'm just trying to get comfortable, but it's a bit tight in here. And so anyway, I was going about my day as normal. I wasn't far from the tent at all. I was really close. Maybe I sort of walked out. I'm just going to keep looking back at the lions because they've stood up now. See, I know this is going to happen. I'm going to come back and forth to my story, but we'll get there. Now, some of the cubs also got up and moved away. Now we've got another lioness standing and listening. I think they're all anticipating the arrival of the rest of the Nkuhumas. I think that's what they're missing. It doesn't look like anything sort of too interesting. Perhaps just changing position. Right, so I was out collecting, and I always stop and listen. That's one of the most important things you have to do when you're on foot. So I stopped and I listened and I said, I'll try. I'm going to do what I did now. And I looked around and I thought I heard something. I didn't, and I carried on walking. And I don't think I was more than about between 60 and 80 meters away from the tent. And I found a velvet ant. So I reached down and I took my multi-tool out, and I picked very gently, I picked the velvet ant up and I put a leaf underneath it, and I was walking very carefully not to drop this ant because I thought, oh, amazing, I found something fantastic for James. So as I'm walking back very, very slowly, I stopped and I had a quick look around again, nothing, and I'm not joking, it was maybe 20 meters, 25 meters from the tent, and I stopped dead, and it was amazing. My whole body went cold, and I heard this snort, and I turned to my right, so I went just like that. My eyes grew about 10 times the size, and I was maybe 30 meters away from a big buffalo bull. He looked at me, and I think the way he was walking, you know, that typical buffalo stride, head dangling down on the ground, he looked up at the same time, and I think he got a big fright, so he snorted, and I stood still, but the next thing he started charging me, and flat out, now I'm close to him, I can't tell you how close I was, so I look, and I was like, I've got no tree to climb. I'm not standing my ground anymore. He's close and he was flat out charging now. Head down, he's coming for me. So I just booked it. I ran straight into the tent, shouting a variety of words. And then one of them being Bufflao, that one I can tell you. Into the tent I went. And James latched onto me, he grabbed me. And everyone was very confused. Thank goodness nothing. I don't think anything was recorded. And David was in there too. And David saying, "Is he going to come back?" And then I was like, "Oh my goodness, imagine if he turns and chases us into the tent. We'd have to dive out the windows." It was very exciting. And I think I did see my life flash before my eyes. But now when somebody says to me, it's impossible that you can outrun a buffalo, I can tell them different. I'm quite proud of this. But let's quickly go back to the lions. There obviously there's all sorts of things going. But don't worry, I come out Oh, sorry, Kirsty's telling me now. You probably heard that, how fantastic that was. I'm glad you enjoyed it. But I'm unscathed. I have one little scratch on my leg from a branch that hooked me, but that's nothing I've never had before. So I'm good. And we can see this lioness has applied another coat of lipstick to her lips. Ooh. That almost sounded like a dog barking. Did you hear that? And it's that same young cub that we've watched since this morning, still eating and still having a go at this lioness. The Come on, you've got big bellies, you've got tummies full of milk, you've got tummies full of buffalo. Oh, I think we're going to get a bit more commotion, especially if this other lioness comes over. Oh, they're all making lots and lots of noise. I'm also hearing some elephants in the background. I can hear them pushing trees amongst all the growling that's going on. She's found herself a tasty morsel. Delicious. Isn't that incredible? Look at that lovely bright red. That'd make an amazing screenshot. It's like a Halloween photo. It'd give you some ideas. You could go as a lion who's just fed on a buffalo kill. It would probably look quite similar to the Joker's face, though, with those bright red lips. But add a few ears, maybe a mane, and I think you're good to go as a Halloween. You can go as one of the Nkuhumas or one of the Birminghams. Now it's quieting down. I'm really, really happy that as I start talking, they make a lot of noise. Just checking up in the air, see if it was a vulture that flew. Right. But I hope you've enjoyed the Nkuhumas this morning. I think we're going to say goodbye to them now and let them rest peacefully and allow the other guides to come through. But I hope you enjoyed that. But let's go back to James and see how Madam Karula's doing.